Okay guys, you do not have to be a Boy Scout or sailor to know how to tie knots. Today we're going to go through 4 that I find very beneficial, but at the same time, most people don't know these knots, so I think you guys are going to like it. Stick around. Okay, so technically most of these are going to be hitches, which just means it's a knot that's tied around a fixed object. So let's jump in. First off, we're going to start off with the anchor hitch. This is an easy hitch to start off with, and it really bites in and it's not going to let go. Okay, so using our fixed object here, I'm going to pull out a length of cord. This is going to be my working end. And I'm going to work from left to right on this. I'm going to drape it around my object, under, back over. Make sure to pull it through because I'm going to need a little bit of real estate from here. Next thing, this is my standing end over here. I'm going to come over my standing end, back underneath both of these coils right here. I'm going to dress my knot, which just means I'm going to pull it tight and pretty everything up, because a pretty knot is an effective knot. So now I've got this one, my working end is underneath both of these coils. I'm going to come back over the top of my standing end, looping back through and pulling it tight. Snugging things up, and there folks, you have the anchor hitch. Next up, we're going to do the Highwayman's hitch. Now this hitch is going to be a little less secure than like our anchor hitch was. However, this one's a good, quick, simple one if you're going to go through and like tether an animal to a tree or a fence post or something. Works really great for that, because once you're all done, all you do, pull one string and you're off to the races. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to need more of a working end, so I'm going to pull off about a foot. I'm going to take a bite, which just means a little fold in my cordage. So I've got one long side over here and one shorter side over here. I'm going to loop around the back of my fixed object, coming up on this side over here. And I don't want a ton of extra real estate over here, but just enough to kind of get this tag end around. So then I'm going to take my long side and I'm going to push a bite of it through here. And then I'm going to take my short side, take a bite out of it, and push it through that new loop that I just made. And then from there, I'm just going to grab my long side and start pulling it tight and dressing my knot. Going to keep it nice and pretty here, make sure everything's not binding up on itself. This is going to be plenty to hold your animal from going somewhere. And like I said, when you're done, grab that tag end, pull it, you're back on the trail. Ever wonder what would happen if a prusik knot, a slippery half hitch, and a taut line hitch got together and had a child? This is going to be the exploding Farrimond friction hitch, because what you're left with is a knot for your ridge line that you can simply slide back and forth and adjust the tension to. When you're done with it, you grab the tab, pull it out, and it's all gone. Okay, so the first step in tying this, I'm going to tie it off on one end around here on my tree. I'm going to come this way. I'm going to come around my tree, come back in with my other end here. I'm just going to pull things kind of tight. And what's really important, I'm going to go through now and make a little loop, and I'm going to turn it over so that the tail end over here, the working end, is on the bottom. And all I'm going to start working with initially is just this little loop. And I'm going to start laying it over my main ridge line over here and start looping it through and give myself a little more real estate. Trying to make sure that as I'm going through and doing these loops, I'm needing 3 to 4 bands on each side over here. And it's all about friction, so the more areas I can get, the more surface area I can get, the better. And so this is starting to look like a prusik knot a bit. Now, a really important step next, I'm going to take this tag end down here, take a bite out of it, and just push it in through that little loop. And so now I'm going to start drawing by pulling on here and up here, drawing this down tight, making sure to dress my coils and stuff up when I'm down here, because again, pretty knot's an effective knot. Spread those out like they're supposed to be. And now, grab the ridge line, start sliding our knot down. Now we have the exploding Farrimond friction. And like I said, when you're done with it, grab it, give it a tug, and you're off to the races. Next up, we're going to do the zip tie of knot tying. This is the Canadian jam knot. It's a great way to bind together things like a bedroll or just anything that wants to kind of expand back on itself. Not to mention, this is probably the simplest knot to tie. Okay, so first up, to tie the Canadian jam knot, the first thing we've got to do is put a stopper knot at the end of our line. So I've just got my working end down here, and I'm just going to loop over and over one more time. Just needs to be something kind of large and chunky, so I'm going to dress that up as we come to the end. I'm making sure to leave a little bitty tag in down here because this end is going to be important. I'm going to tie just a simple overhand loop in the end of my cords, but I'm not going to pull it super tight. I'm going to snug it, but not pull it overly tight. I'm going to come around the object that I'm wanting to bind, and then I'm going to grab the other end of my cordage. I'm going to feed it through that overhand loop. And once it's through there, I'm just going to start pulling it through and ratcheting back on it. You guys will notice that that's slipping to the end. Once it gets to that stopper knot, it's going to stop, and then as you pull back on it, it's just going to continue to cinch and get tighter. Noticing it's not backing back out. But now I've gotten to where I'm going and I want to loosen this back up. I'm going to grab this tab and pull it the opposite direction, and it loosens right up. You guys have it. Super easy Canadian jam knot. Hey, if you enjoyed that, go through, give it a thumbs up and a subscribe if you haven't already. Regardless, hopefully you picked up a few nuggets out there that you can find beneficial and put to use next time you're out on the trail. And if you're out on the trail watching this right now, as always, just remember, left foot, right foot, repeat. We'll see you out there soon.